Besides being very beautiful, ancient Greece is a land of many firsts. It was home to the first Olympics, the first democracy, the first organized theater, and some very impressive architecture. That's only part of the story. There really is much more.
I see a lot of students holding colorful masks. What is that all about?
Here, let me share with you another postcard that I sent home from Greece. It will tell you much about the theater, and then the students can fill you in about the rest. You will understand what the masks are all about. Actually, I think I'll pick one of these eager young students to read my postcard to you.
Okay, students, if you will get up on the desk, please.
Today we went to a very special festival that celebrates Greek theater. Did you know that drama and theater started in ancient Greece? In ancient times, all the actors were men. They all wore masks so female parts could be portrayed by the mask. They wore long robes and platform shoes. There was always a group of men called the chorus that stood below the stage and narrated the story. The theater itself was built into the hillside, and it was possible to hear the actors whisper. Sometimes 14,000 people came to the festival. The plays were tragedies and comedies. I hope you can visit Greece someday. Love, Eric.
The class has prepared a choral reading that tells a lot about the theater in ancient Greece.
Students, please stand.
One, two, three.
A hearty welcome, one and all, to our ancient play. Of tragedy and comedy, we've many things to say.
Sit right down and listen while we'll tell you of the past.
Of who we are, what we did, and why our plays will last. We Greeks are famous for our plays and for the actors' art.
It was in ancient Greece, you know, that acting got its start.
The actors always wore a mask to show who they would be.
But women weren't allowed to act, so all the she's were he's. The plays were given out of doors while the hours crisper.
Theaters were so well built you could hear the actors whisper.
Comedies were non-stop fun and no one fell asleep. The Greeks liked tragedies the best and found them very deep.
They told of strife, they told of fate, they told of death and war. The audience and mourning you can sometimes cry for more.
The writers of these ancient plays, as they are called,
and many other talents that kept us all enthralled.
They had to write for dance and song, and they designed the sets.
Directors and producers too, they really stood the test.
But in the end, at break of day, the poet's play would start.
And people in their hundreds watched the actors play their parts. The contest would go on for days until the best play won. Then everyone would head for home at setting of the sun.
The crowds are gone, the poets too, the wind alone still speaks. And reminds us that the greatest plays were written by the Greeks.
Okay, students, put your mask under the desk.
Wow, that was great. What about these outfits? Did Greeks really wear them?
Oh yes. In ancient times, all the cloth had to be woven by hand, so the garments were very simple. They were held together with pins and ties and a minimal amount of sewing.
They really are quite beautiful. I hear some of the students have offered to put on a fashion show for us. The basic dress for women and men was called a keen. A keen was a long rectangular piece of cloth that was cut in two. It was held together at the shoulders by pins. Some keens had pins that ran all the way down the arms. The keens would be different lengths. Women wore long ankle-length keens. Men, children, and slaves often wore knee-length keens. Keens were sometimes bright colors such as red or purple. A cord or string around the waist served as a belt. The two main types of keens were the Doric and the Ionic keens. Gianna is one example of a Doric keen. The top part of the fabric was folded over and it was then wrapped around the body. One side of the chiton was left open. Kayla is wearing an example of an Ionic chiton. It was fastened in intervals across the shoulder and arms. Both chitons had a belt tied around the waist. We made our own belts for this presentation by using a technique that used 4 straws to help create a loom.
Young men wore short chitons. These were sewn on the sides and were fastened on one or both shoulders. Lucas is wearing an example of this type of chiton. A belt was also used around the waistline. George is wearing another type of garment called a hymation. This was worn over the chiton. A hymation was a long piece of cloth draped across the shoulders and arms. Single women wore their hair long with headbands, barrettes, or combs in their hair. Married women used nets, ribbons, or combs to pile their long hair in their heads. Slave women wore short hair. Rich people wore jewelry. Men wore gold or silver rings. Women wore necklaces, bracelets, and large dangling earrings. People went barefoot most of the time, especially indoors, but leather sandals were also worn.
Besides the beautiful clothes, the Greeks created some impressive buildings. Their architecture can be seen in Washington, D.C. and other big cities. Athens is the capital city of Greece. It is named after the goddess Athena. I have a postcard that will show you one of the main sights and some of the magnificent architecture of this great city.
Dear Mom, we are having a great time exploring ancient Greece. Yesterday we went to the city of Athens. It was an important city-state in ancient Greece, and it is the capital of this country today. There is a flat hill in the center of Athens. This hill is called the Acropolis. That means high city. Some of the most important buildings of ancient Greece were built on this hill. The building at the top and center is called the Parthenon. It was built as a temple to the goddess Athena. I wonder what we will see and learn tomorrow. Bye for now. Wish you were here. Love, Aisha.
Gee, I think the Parthenon is to ancient Greece what the pyramids are to ancient Egypt. Very impressive.
The pottery of ancient Greece is also very distinct. Guess what? I have a postcard about that too.
The ancient Greeks are famous for their painted pottery. The detailed scenes they painted on the pottery has given us an enormous amount of information about their daily lives. The pottery was orange and black. A special kind of clay was used that would turn red when it was fired. The parts that were to turn black were painted with a mixture of clay, ash, and mortar. We decorated some pottery with our own stories and designs.
Thank you. Your products are very nice and certainly capture the feel of Greek pottery.
Didn't you say earlier that ancient Greece was the home of many first Olympics and democracy?
Yes, I did.
Well, what was that all about? Oh, let me guess, another postcard.
No, not this time, but I will ask several students to come up and share what they know about these topics.
Many of the city-states of ancient Greece were democracies, and in democracy the decisions about government were made by councils of ordinary citizens. Only adult men were considered to be citizens. Women, slaves, and foreigners were not citizens. Citizens could own property and had the most rights. Today, the term democracy describes a system where everybody has a vote. In Athens, citizens met about once every 10 days on a hill. At least 6,000 citizens had to be present. If too few people attended, special police went around and rounded up more citizens.
Greeks expressed pride in their own city-states by building large public buildings and holding sporting events. The early Olympic Games lasted for 5 days and were held every 4 years. They were held in Olympia as part of the festival for the god Zeus. Wars were brought to a standstill so that people could travel to the games safely. Often as many as 50,000 people came from some as far away as Spain and Egypt. The original events include foot races, wrestling, and chariot races. Only men were allowed to participate in and watch the events.
I can't imagine stopping at work to prepare for the Olympics. That is really cool. I think that they had their priorities straight.
Another very famous event of ancient Greece was the Trojan War. You may have heard about the face that launched 1,000 ships and the huge horse called the Trojan horse. Troy is not in Greece, but right across the Aegean Sea in Turkey. We have some students who have a postcard and story about the most famous of wars.
Dear Mom, today we visited the ancient battlefield of Troy. It is where the Trojan War was fought about 3,000 years ago. This war took 10 years. The Greeks finally won when they snuck a large wooden horse to the walls of Troy. The horse was filled with Greek soldiers, and when the Trojans were asleep, they climbed out of the horse and defeated the Trojans. The war was supposedly fought over a beautiful woman named Helen. The Trojans took her from a Greek home in Sparta. One of the heroes of the Trojan War was Odysseus. It took him 10 more years to get home from the war. According to legends in Greek mythology, he had some interesting adventures on the way home. He finally returned back to his home in Ithaca 4 years after he left. These Greek stories are told in the Iliad and the Odyssey. Mallory.
You know there was another famous war in ancient Greece. This one was between the two most powerful city-states of Athens and Sparta. It was called the Peloponnesian War. Let's hear more about that.
Athens and Sparta were two of the greatest city-states in ancient Greece. They were very different. The people of Athens enjoyed music, arts, and literature. The people of Sparta were brought up to be soldiers. In 431 BC, these two city-states were at war. This war lasted 27 years. We will now hear from some children that lived in these city-states at that time.
My name is Philippus. I'm 7 years old and I live in the great city-state of Athens. I must go to school even though the Spartans are surrounding the city. I will have to go to school until I am 14 years old. Books are very expensive and rare, so everything is read out loud, and I will just have to remember it. At least they give me a writing tablet and my very own ruler. In primary school, I had to learn two important things: the words of Homer, a famous Greek poet, and how to play the lyra, a musical instrument. When I leave the school, I had to go to a higher school for 4 more years. Then I had to go to military school for 2 more years. I hope the war will be finished by then.
My name is Carintha. I also live in Athens. I am Pelophus' sister. I'm not allowed to go to school. I have to learn to read at home for my mother. I think I'll read a lot of Aesop's fables. I do like them very much. Our slave used to let me listen when he read them to Philippus. I will just have to stay here at home and help nurse my mother. A dreadful plague has hit the city. I hope the war is over soon.
I would like to introduce myself. I'm Sparkus the Younger, and I live in the great city-state of Sparta. I'm 7 years old at last. I'm very excited. I can go to school now. The school is in the soldiers' barracks. I'm going to learn how to be brave and how to fight. People say that the older boys will pick fights with me, and there will never be enough food to eat. This is to help me teach to survive in battle. When I'm 20, I will have to pass a difficult test of fitness, military ability, and leadership skills. If I pass, I become a full citizen and a Spartan soldier. I hope we win this war against Athens.
My name is Polonia, and I too live in the great city-state of Sparta. I'm Sparkus' sister. It is time for me to go to school as well. I live in the barracks. I don't know exactly what to expect, but I know that I will learn wrestling, gymnastics, and combat skills. They want me to be strong. I hope we win this war against Athens.
Homer was a famous poet in ancient Greece who wrote the stories about the Trojan horse and war. He wrote 2 very long poems about the wars, the adventures of the Odysseus called the Iliad and the Odyssey. Greek school children used to have to memorize them.
Yes, I know, and I also know they are very long poems. I have heard that we are going to hear some poems today. Will they be the Iliad and the Odyssey?
No, I'm afraid not. We don't have that kind of time. The students have chosen their own poems. Let's see what they have in store for us.
We will begin with a poem to a poet.
Many of the poems you will hear today were written by Shel Silverstein and Jack Prelutsky. Several years ago, Shel Silverstein died. His friend Jack Prelutsky wrote this poem to honor him. Your flame has been extinguished, we are sadder troubadour. You lit the attic light for us and taught us tug of war. You wrote with wit and humor, how we love your wondrous words. Your hula eels and gassy meal and weeping rooted birds. You filled your books with silly rhymes and magic happenstance, polar bears and frigid airs, and pairs of dancing pants. Alas, your voice is silenced now, and we must say farewell. You've gone to where the sidewalk ends, to gently moonbird shell.
Now the children have some poems that they're going to say, starting with Max.
Jellyfish stew. Jellyfish stew, I'm longing for you. I dearly adore you, oh truly I do. You're creepy to see, revolting to suit. You slide down inside with a hullabaloo. You're soggy, you're smelly, you taste like shampoo. You bog on my belly with oodles goo. Yet I will glue noodles and prunes on my shoe for one easy spoonful of jellyfish stew.
No difference. Small as a peanut, big as a giant, we're all the same. We're all the same size when we turn off the light. Rich as a sultan, poor as a mite, we're all the same when we turn off the light. Red, orange, or yellow and white, we all look the same when we turn off the light. Maybe the way to make things right is for God to reach down and turn off the light.
Valentina?
Danny Adair. Danny Adair, the dancing bear, ran away from the county fair. Ran right up to my bags there and thought he'd do some dancing there. He started jumping and skipping and kicking. He did a dance called the funky chinkin. He did the polka, he did the twist, he bent himself in a pretzel like this. He did the dog and jitterbug, he did the jerk and the bunny hug. He did the waltz and the boogaloo, he did the hokey pokey too. He did the bob and the mashed potato, he did the split and the see you later. Now he's down upon the knee, bowing oh so charmingly, and winking and smiling, and it's easy to see Danny O'Dare wants to dance with me.
Eric?
It's raining pigs and noodles. It's raining pigs and noodles, it's pouring frogs and hats, chrysanthemums and poodles, bananas, prunes, and hats. Assorted prunes and parrots are dropping from the sky. Here comes a bunch of carrots, some hippopotami. It's raining pens and pickles, and eggs and silverware. A flood of figs and nickels is flying through the air. I see a swan, a sweater, a clock, a model train. I like this so much better than when it's raining rain.
George?
Ogres are ugly, ogres are mean, ogres are skinned as a hideous green. Ogres are gruesome, ogres are greedy, they give to the rich and take from the needy. Ogres are selfish, ogres are scary, ogres they pardon me, sir, very rarely. Ogres are callous, ogres are cruel, ogres don't clean up their rooms as a rule. Ogres are eerie, ogres are hairy, ogres are not very sanitary. Ogres have pimples, ogres have rabies, ogres have faces that scare little babies.
Kayla?
Because I don't like lima beans, I put them in my juice. My mother noticed what I did and it was no use. I slyly slid my spinach on the floor beneath my chair. My mother's eyes are very sharp and she saw it sitting there. I tried to hide my broccoli behind the window shade. My mother gave it back to me as a big dismay. Whenever I get vegetables, she finds them in a blank. It's hard to fool my mother. She knows the way I think.
And she does. Lucas?
You glad your nose is on your face. You glad your nose is on your face, not pasting on some other place. but if it wore it where it's not, you might dislike your nose a lot. Imagine if your precious nose was sandwiched in between your toes. That clearly would not be a treat, for you would be forced to smell your feet.
David?
Norton Newton's nostrils. While Norton Newton's nostrils, they're powerful and strong, hold on to your belongings if he should come along. And do not ever let him inhale with all his might, or else your pens and pencils will disappear from sight. Of his nose will vanish, your future will be black. Unless he gets the sneezes, you'll never get them back.
Nathan?
When I grow up, I think I may pilot rockets to the sky, grow orchards full of apple trees, or find a way to cure disease. Perhaps I'll run for president, design a robot, or invent unique computerized machines, or miniature submarines. When I grow up, I'd like to be the captain of a ship at sea, an architect, a clown, cook, the writer of a famous book. I just might be the one to teach a chimpanzee the art of speech, but what I want to be, I'll bet I've just not begun to think of yet.
Rhea?
The leaves are turning colors and dropping from the trees. They float and swirl and flutter. They dance upon the breeze. They're amber, red, and yellow. They make a lovely sight. And if it weren't summer, then that'll be all right.
Kyle?
I'm an alley cat with one life left. I'm an alley cat with one life left. I started out with 9, but lost my first in a knockdown fight with a cat named Frankenstein. My second went soon after that to something that I ate. My third went under a garbage truck. I noticed it too late. While strolling through the zoo one day, I heard an awful roar. I've wandered in the lion's cage. So much for number 4. I lost my 5th one warning to a ton of falling bricks, then tumbled from a window ledge and gave up number 6. I lost my 7th to St. Bernard. I was no match for him. My 8th was squandered in a lake. It seems I couldn't swim. So now I better watch my step. I'm down to number 9. I'm an alley cat with one life left. I'm glad this life is mine.
Rhea?
Boing, boing, squeak. Boing, boing, squeak. Boing, boing, squeak. A bouncing mouse is in my house and been here for a week. It bounced from out of nowhere and quickly settled in. I'm grateful it came alone. I heard it had a twin. It bounces in the kitchen. It bounces in the den. It bounces in the living room. Look, there it goes again. Boing, boing, squeak. Boing, boing, squeak. A bouncing mouse is in my house and been here for a week. It bounces on the sofa, on the table, on my bed, up the stairs and on my chairs and even on my head. The mouse continues bouncing every minute of the day. It bounces, 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 but it never bounces away. Boing, boing, squeak. Boing, boing, squeak. A bouncing mouse is in my house and been here for a week.
Gianna?
I like the floppy dog downstairs. I like the floppy dog downstairs. Its temper is sweet. We often chase each other playing tag along the street. I like the fuzzy dog next door that knows a lot of tricks. It wags its tail, it licks my face, and runs and fetches sticks. I like the dog across the yard that comes up to my chin. We roll around and wrestle, and he always lets me win. But there's one dog I do not like. He doesn't bite or growl. He simply sleeps and sleeps all day but barks and barks all night.